What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazik, aka Franchise Player, and we're here with an episode of Ask FP. You will not be seeing me in this video today. I fell and I bumped my lip. No, that's not true. My couch is not clean, so I don't want to show y'all no dirty couch. You understand what I'm saying? Somebody's probably saying, why you didn't clean it up? Because I didn't feel like it. You understand? You got me? At any rate, let's talk about NBA Live 18 to start off. Now, we're going to do Ask FP, of course, but some big stuff is happening with NBA Live 18 today. And I've been a writing fool talking about it. So, yeah. So I'm gonna take it in the steps in the order of how it happened, right? So earlier today, Steve Noah from Operation Sports, he's the man. He posted some screenshots of NBA Live 18, quite a few players. Russell Westbrook, who definitely appears to be the cover athlete again this year. He was one of the screenshots. And as you can see, this looks outstanding. Like, this is totally undeniable. You look at this screenshot, the way it looks right now on your screen right now. And I would have to say I would say it's the best render. It may be the best facial render I've ever seen, right? That's what I'm looking at. I'm like, wow, right? So then we got Russell Westbrook here dunking, which is okay. He's not quite as good as the face, but it's good. Then you look at this LeBron James. This looks good. This Kyrie Irving, no, I ain't really feeling it. This looks like Kyrie with the flu. And he need an antibiotic or something, because this is not, I don't like that Kyrie so much. Okay, so then Steph Curry, it looks okay, but it's kind of like Steph Curry with allergies. You see his eyes a little puffy. You know, he needs some Allegra or something. All right, here we got James Harden. This is not that bad, not from this angle, but we're going to talk about it a little bit later on. This Anthony Davis is really good. This DeMar DeRozan is decent. I really like the way the body structure looks in this particular picture. You can see the muscular definition. It's cool, right? This Giannis looks okay, only it don't really look like Giannis from the body, because we know Giannis is much longer and thinner than he is represented here. Like, if you look at his body type as compared to the guy he's dunking on here, which is Kevin Love, there's not much difference in the body type, and we know that's not right. But for the most part, I thought that looking at these screenshots, I was pretty impressed. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I'm like, all right, I'm getting a little bit excited about this, right? Well, a little bit later on in the day, they come up with, I guess there was a ton of YouTubers that got invited out to EA, and they went and they got these screenshots. They got some cool gifts and stuff, and it was a really dope. It looked like it was an awesome time. But they also gave them a gameplay clip. And honestly, guys, I really think the gameplay clip somewhat robbed Live of the momentum that had started with the screenshots. So I'm going to show you. It starts at like the 30-second point here on Chris Dinker's Dink Ops video. So let's just look at this. Now, you know what? Let me be fair, though, because I don't have it on HD here. It's on, I don't know why I went to 1040. But so now we got to wait a second. Y'all know how the buffering thing goes. Let's take it back some. Let's take it here. It might take a second because y'all know I got a lot of windows open. So it might take me a second for them to scale it all the way up to 1080p, 60 frames per second. But I'm gonna show you guys. Got to look at this. But I am really seeing some of the same types of legacy issues that kind of hampered this game in the past. So take a look. Oh my God, we finna get buffered all day with this. What's going on? What's going on? All right, can we roll this, please? Please. Yeah, but I'm seeing, and you can see I wrote that as you look at the bottom of the screen, some legacy issues here. Oh man, this is what happens when you try to, you know what? How about I don't worry about that, because I actually have the video let's see. We're gonna go into this. Let's see, make sure you guys can see what I'm showing here. Uh-oh. We don't want to do that. Here we go. Told you. I told y'all. All right. Oh, wow. We're going into crazy mode right now. All right. Let me see if I can play this because we'll be able to see it better like this. All right. So take a look at this. I am seeing, and I'm going to actually have it go into slow-mo as well. So you'll really be able to see what I mean. But I'm seeing a lot of the same types of issues, man. Choppy movement, and obviously you're seeing it's a little choppy just because you're watching it like, you know, you're watching like this degraded version of it because you're watching it through my screen. It's a screen share and the video never plays all of that smooth, but this is in slow motion. But I feel like the John Wall layup, it looks good to me. I didn't have a problem with that. But okay, let's go back for a second because I got a problem with a render already. I already got a problem. Let's go back and we're gonna pause it on this bad boy so you can look at that. Wait a minute, hold on, stop, hold on. No whammies, no whammies, stop. Let's look at, all right, you see that right there? You see that dude with the beard? That's supposed to be Robin Lopez. I don't know who that is. Y'all making me go into player faces, tattoos, and shoes already, and ain't even time. Who is that dude there with the beard and the little afro? I don't know. I do not know. I'm disturbed by his presence. I don't know what that is. That's not good. I just caught that now. Let's see if we can catch something else. Victor Oladipo, it's the arms, man. They just look short and stubby. Now, I do like that two-hand catch it off. But look at this. Why in the world is DeAndre Jordan's body type the same as Victor Oladipo's? Now, 2K has a little bit of a problem with this too. Now, I like this animation though, the alley-oop dunk and Al Horford falls all out on the floor like he got shot by a sniper. That's cool. But it's certain angles where things don't look right. This screenshot here leaked a little bit earlier. Somebody had taken it off screen, which was LeBron standing up, looking a little bit too muscular here with his chest poked out. But you know, what's that? But look at this dribble move here. I think this dribble move looks, especially when you see it in real motion, I thought it looked a little bit. Now look at that. You saw that? That's, you know, that happens actually in 2K too. But I don't know. It looks a little choppy, and like I'm looking at Harden here, and you know, I'm not feeling. I don't know. I'm not feeling that. And then there's Giannis. Look at how Giannis is not that muscular. His arms aren't long enough. But the Raptors look good though. I thought they looked pretty good. And then we got Russell Westbrook here, and like we saw how good that render looked. But now when I see the full body version, it looks weird. His head looks, something's wrong. He looks like E.T. little brother, OT. I don't know, but I'm not digging it. I'm not digging it. But I do like this layup here. But Kyrie has the flu on here, so I don't know if he should be doing any layups. At any rate, I can't say that I'm blown away. And I think that's the problem, man. You know, if you think about it like this, y'all, when you're looking at a trailer, right, at this early stage of things, you're thinking you're going to see the best, right? That's what you think. You're thinking you're going to see the best this game has to offer. And if I'm still seeing legacy issues and I'm still seeing the game looking as if it was, I'm still seeing it look like NBA Live 16, if I'm just being totally honest. If I'm still seeing it look like that, then I think that's kind of a problem. Just me personally, I think that's a problem. But I don't know. It's too early to totally tell. You know, we need to have the game in our hands. We need to see some real live gameplay, play the game before I know. But I wasn't impressed, man. I really wasn't, and I'm a little bummed by that because I really had some high hopes that Live 18 was going to be really good this year and really push 2K, and I really don't see that happening based off of what I just saw. But we'll have to wait and see. All right, so let's jump into the questions, and let's see. We got the first one from Michael Rigsby Jr. And Michael Rigsby Jr. says the Bulls reportedly offered to the Lakers of Jimmy Butler and the second round pick for Luol Deng, D'Angelo Russell, and the 28th pick in the draft. Is this true? I've never heard that before, Mike. And if it is true, somebody need to get slapped in 5 because there is no way in the world the Bulls should be giving up Jimmy Butler and anything else but Jimmy Butler by himself for an old Luol Deng, an unproven D'Angelo Russell, and the 28th pick in the draft. It's one thing to get a draft pick of a guy who has not yet played in the NBA because you still have the high hopes and you can totally mold them. But we've already seen D'Angelo Russell in the league 2 years, and we've seen him be okay and show some flashes, but not enough to be talking about he's the major piece in the Jimmy Butler trade. And that's exactly what he would be if you're dealing for him with this deal. So I hope that is just something that is wrong. So we're going to go from there. Jared Young says 16th pick comes up. Terrence Ferguson is still on the board. You get a call from Philly. They offer Okafor for the 16th pick. What would you do? I am telling Philly, thank you for calling, but I am not interested. I'm going to take my chances with Ferguson because I think the upside is higher on Ferguson. I think Okafor is a nice player, but I don't think he's a game changer. And I think that the Bulls need to be getting game changers at this point. And just getting a big who is solid is that's not what you need. The Bulls need to try to hit a home run with the 16th pick, and they're not going to hit a home run if they swap it for Okafor. All right, next question comes from Jared Young. He says, who do you think was in the wrong, LeVar Ball or Christine Leahy? I think that they set LeVar Ball up. I think that essentially every time he does a show of any kind right now, for the most part, he's being set up to try to say something else that, you know, us in the media can run with and say, oh, look at what it's the next stupid thing LeVar said. Oh, don't you hate him even more now than you hated him yesterday? And it's just, that's pretty much what's happening right now. And he continues to walk into the trap. I understand what his initial objective may have been, which is to build his brand and build the kids' brand and build their collective brand. I understand what that has been, but there's been a few times where I think he has stepped out of bounds and has needed to just pull back. You know, I feel like, I think I might have mentioned this to you guys before. I didn't like him talking about anyone's children. So, you know, LeBron has little children. He has like 11 and what did I think the kids are like 12 and 9 or 11 and 9 or something like that, right? Don't talk about people's kids. You know, him saying LeBron's kids ain't going to be great. And then he gave his explanation, which, I mean, kind of sort of makes sense, but it's still one of them by the liquor store kind of explanations. And when I say that, I mean, it's the type of conversation that somebody has who doesn't have to be accountable for anything they say. You know, you have a conversation about sports in your living room. You can say any stupid thing you want. It doesn't have to be backed up by facts. And hey, it just goes with it. But when you are in the media or when you're being talked to or being interviewed, your answers have to be backed up by some sort of fact, not some kind of wild speculation based off of some just myth that you made up. And him saying that no great player sons has ever been great, there's no way to prove that. If there's one exception that proves that wrong, then now you're done. Now the whole thing is out the window. So that kind of statement is just dumb. But the other thing is when he said UCLA had too many white players to win. That's, dude, come on, man. Come on, bro. What are you doing? You know, like, what are you talking? Dude, sit down. Stop. Just shut up. you know, and then so this, you know, Christine Leahy basically tried to bait him into a chauvinistic comment, and he ended up saying something he shouldn't have said. She says, oh, so you're you know, so you're not gonna have any success if you don't market your brand to women. And he said, yeah, if you got a woman's company. Well, okay, here's the thing. The shoes are men's shoes. They are men's shoes. Now, obviously, we definitely do have women who wear men's shoes. The shirts are men, it's men's apparel. Okay. So you don't want to insult anybody else, but he's not lying in saying that the shoes at this point, with him not having expanded his brand to a female brand, the shoes are made for guys. So that's true, but it's the way he said it, which basically he's clumsy with his speech, is what made it sound a certain way, and which was essentially Christine Leahy and Colin Cowherd's objective. They essentially wanted to make another fool of LeVar Ball, and he helped them by talking too much. He tried to ignore Christine Leahy because I think he felt the trap was there, but he still ended up falling into it anyway. So I guess to answer your question, I think they both were wrong, because when you try to set somebody up, you just basically have no positive, you have no positive motive. You're looking to create an issue. You're looking to create a problem, and that's wrong, whether or not the person has proven themselves to be an idiot or not. You try to set people up is wrong. But LeVar Ball did say something that he shouldn't have said. Now, another person was saying he threatened her. Man, I almost vomited. That's the stupid. You guys know good and well he didn't threaten her. I'm going to tell you what that reminded me of. And some of y'all are going to get offended by this, because a lot of people get offended when you bring up race. But that just reminded me of an African-American guy saying something that is a type of thing that people say, or that is normally said, or is a common term, or it's expressed in a common way. And either someone who is not an African-American doesn't understand the origin of the statement, or the whole feeling behind the statement, and then because they're angry at this person, or because they don't like this person, they then try to twist the meaning and make it mean something that it didn't mean. What he said was, he was talking about her making negative comments about him. So he said, if you do that, something's coming to you. Now, if you want to take that from a raw, completely ignorant standpoint and say, oh, something coming to me, that means you're threatening me, that means you're saying something's bad going to happen to me. If you want to do that, I think you're being a little bit less than honest with yourself, because I think you know that that's in the whole context of the conversation. That's not what he meant. What he meant was, I'm going to say something back to you, because it was on the heels of him being questioned about his comments about Jason Whitlock, which were mean. But Jason Whitlock was, I mean, come on, we're defending Jason Whitlock for saying mean stuff. I mean, for having someone say something mean to him. Jason Whitlock has said plenty of mean things to other people. So I'm not saying it makes it right, but come on, man, there's no victims here. But it was on the heels of him being questioned about retorting or having a insult in a reply to Jason Whitlock. So that's exactly what he meant. This dude is not threatening Christine Leahy, talking about I'm going to get you, or somebody else is going to get you, because come on, man, just come on. We can not agree with a person and think that maybe even they're silly, but we don't have to try to put words in people's mouths, and we don't have to try to make them out to be these monsters just to further support whatever feeling that whatever dislike you may have for this person. So that's just totally out of bounds, I think. And I think just got taken blown way out of proportion, which is not uncommon these days. But moving on. Next question comes from Michael Rigsby Jr. He says, I was going to ask, do you see the NBA making any sort of changes after seeing how these playoffs have been, but can they? I don't think there's any changes that need to be made. And I think this is something that's being blown out of proportion. all of a sudden teams are not getting pushed to 7 games in every series, and now the NBA needs to get changed because the Warriors went 12-0 on the way to the NBA Finals, and the Cavs are probably going to go 12-1. And now we got to change everything. That's just a knee-jerk reaction. It's ridiculous. Hey, every single playoff of every single year is not going to blow your socks off. It's just not. That's just the way it is. Just the same way that every Super Bowl is not a great Super Bowl. I mean, we had a run for a little while where every single Super Bowl that happened felt like it was a blowout. It was just terrible. That's just the way it is. I don't think we need to keep trying to quote unquote fix everything. Everything's not broken. It's just what it is. So yes, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors are by far and away the 2 best teams in the NBA, and it ain't even close. Second place or third and fourth place isn't even close. We know that. That's if in basketball, it's hard to find any season where there were more than 4 teams who had a legitimate argument that they had a chance to win the NBA title. That's pretty much almost every single year. So back in the 50s and the 60s, when Bill Russell was leading the Boston Celtics to championship after championship, was anybody saying we need to fix the league? We need to do something because the Celtics keep winning? Was anybody saying that then? I mean, if you just think about championships from the beginning of time, from the beginning of the NBA to now, I mean, then that's a problem overall because the Boston Celtics and the Lakers have won the vast majority of NBA championships. And then you got the Spurs coming in there. You got the one little pocket where the Bulls win 6 times in 8 years. This is just the way basketball goes. It always has been this way. I just think we should just sit back and enjoy great players and wait for the next era, and just enjoy this era. And then here comes another one. We don't know what's going to happen with the next one, but this is LeBron's era. This is LeBron's era, and Golden State has come in with their big 3 and now big 4, and they've gotten a piece of this. But that's what this is about. I mean, when Mike was in his heyday, nobody in the Eastern Conference was beating the Bulls. It's the same thing is happening right now with LeBron and Cleveland. So I think people are just overreacting. All right, next question is from Weston Flores. He says, is Miguel Cabrera the Babe Ruth of this generation? And if not, who is? P.S. I had to play clean with the good stuff. I don't know what you mean, Weston. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm sure it was very important. But no, I don't think Miguel Cabrera is the Babe Ruth of this generation unless you're talking about a chubby guy who could hit, because I would say that's probably their only similarities. Babe Ruth was a left-handed hitter. Miguel Cabrera was a right-handed hitter. I mean, they both do hit for power and for average. And like I said, they both chubby, but I can't. That's about it. I don't know if there is a Babe Ruth of this era, because I don't even know if baseball is big enough in the United States anymore. And I'm not saying it's not big or people don't like it, but at that time, baseball was king. It was the king sport in the United States in the 20s. It was the king sport. And now it's not that way. Basketball and football absolutely are above it in the overall, in the whole overall structure, the overall sports scene in the United States. Baseball comes in third place to basketball and football. So Babe Ruth was like an icon. And I don't know if baseball is even in a place to have its best player sit there. I mean, Mike Trout is the best player, in my opinion, in baseball, and his status is nowhere close to what Babe Ruth's was. And if his isn't, I don't know whose could be. Let's see. Alex says, should the Cavs fans be disappointed their team couldn't pull off the sweep over Boston? They could be. Honestly, I was a little disappointed. I wanted to see both teams sweep their way into the finals. That's what I wanted to see. And I also didn't want to hear anybody else say anything stupid about trying to put LeBron down, trying to disparage LeBron with LeBron. See, look at that. He didn't sweep his way. He had 11 points in the finals game. Michael Jordan would have never had 11 points in the finals game. Michael Jordan would have had 11 kids and just something goofy, right? I didn't want to hear that, right? And thankfully, I didn't hear that many people saying that. But it was funny though, because I had a friend tell me if Michael Jordan ever had 11 points in a playoff game, the Bulls would have lost. That's what he said. So I had to do some research, right? And I did some research, and Michael Jordan never did have 11 points in a playoff game, but his lowest he had was 17. He had another one we had like 19. I think he might have had another one we had 20. But you know, and that was pretty low for Mike. If you know Mike's statistics, Mike was so as far as a scorer. If Michael Jordan was held to 24, 25 points, it was considered the team did a good defensive job on him. Now, we lose our minds if a lot of these guys get 24 and 25 points. If you held Mike to 24 and 25, people talked about how good a job you did defensively on him. But here's the thing. When Mike had 17 points and 19 points, the Bulls blew the other team out. Now, Mike didn't have good shooting nights on those days, but the Bulls were an absolute team, and they did things with defense first. And no, they did not have a scorer quite as dynamic as Kyrie Irving, but Scottie Pippen was no slouch as an offensive player, and he was amazing in every other aspect of the game. So when I hear people try to talk like Kyrie or like LeBron has a better supporting cast for this Cavs team than Michael Jordan ever had, I'm knowing you got to be 18 years old and you're too young to have seen Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, and even Dennis Rodman play with Mike, and even guys like B.J. Armstrong and John Paxson, who are obviously not 20-point per game scorers. But when you look at the Bulls stat lines and when you look at the box scores from those championship teams, yeah, you didn't see necessarily Mike with 40, Scottie with 40, and, you know, Horace Grant with 25 or Dennis Rodman with 25. You didn't see that. But what you did see was a lot of guys with 9, a lot of guys with 11, another guy with 10. Here's a guy with 16. And then you had Mike with 35 or 40. And then you had Scottie with 25. But you also had Scottie with 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 blocks, and 3 steals. You also had that. And you also had Scottie guarding the best offensive player on the other team so that Mike didn't have to. So Kyrie Irving's not taking any pressure off LeBron James on the defensive end. And I think that's the part of the game that gets massively neglected. Kevin Love has made himself an adequate defender, but he's still not great at it. Horace Grant was a well above average defender, and he's super underrated. And we know Rodman was an outstanding rebounder and defender. So the Bulls did things with defense first. So it's just difficult. And then Mike's primary function for the Bulls was to score. Yes, he did all of these other things. And yes, he was the best player in the world. And he was the best player on that team, clearly. But Mike's primary function for the Bulls was to score. LeBron's primary function is kind of like I don't know if he has one, because yes, he is absolutely wanted or needed to score, but he's also needed to run that offense and to basically create for everyone else. And even whether it's creating space and opportunities, whatever it is, his presence there is so key, because almost everything runs through him. And then even on defense, not as much as it used to be, but still his ability to cover space and to cover ground as a defender is huge. So it's really difficult to compare them, because it's not an apples to apples comparison. It absolutely is an apples to oranges comparison. But I understand LeBron is so great at this point that the only person you can really compare him to is Mike. So it is what it is. Next question comes from Simon Torvey Sunderland. And he says, how much do you think Jonathan Simmons will be paid this offseason? I think Jonathan Simmons is going to get massively overpaid. And I'm not saying that he's not a good player. And I shouldn't even say overpaid, because I don't believe in that term so much. People are not going to pay you anything they can't afford to pay you. So it's not over. You get what you're worth. But he's going to get a really big contract that is going to probably cause a few people's eyes to bulge. But, you know, you got a lot of money coming from the TV deal that's kicking in this offseason, and he's coming off a pretty hot playoff performance that was helped by Kawhi Leonard's injury. So I think he's going to get a solid contract. I don't know with who, I don't know if he'll want to stay in San Antonio. I can't imagine why he would, but not saying San Antonio's bad, but just looking at the opportunities that he has to kind of, blossom away from Kawhi Leonard. So, I mean, because Kawhi's only 25, 26 years old. So it's going to be his team for a while. Next question is from Simon Torvey Sunland, and he says, Paul George seems to be on his way out. What do you think Indiana can get in a trade considering his LA links? Well, I don't know, man. Honestly, if I'm LA, either the Clippers or the Lakers, maybe the Clippers, but especially the Lakers, I'm not trading for Paul George at all because I'm feeling really confident that this is where he wants to be. So the moment he gets an opportunity to get free and sign a deal, sign a free agent deal, I'm feeling like I got a really good chance to sign him myself. So I'm not going to give away any assets that I may be able to use to help entice him, to help him push him over the edge to come to LA. I'm not going to give any of those assets away to try to trade for him now. 9 times out of 10, if I trade for Paul George right now, it's not going to give us a team that's good enough to win a championship. So why am I rushing it? I may as well get the number 2 pick in the draft this year. And I got him. I got Brandon Ingram. I got D'Angelo Russell. I got Jordan Clarkson. I got Julius Randle. I got Larry Nance Jr. I have a team with some young players that I can kind of build with. We probably don't make the playoffs again. That's fine. I get another lottery pick this offseason, and then we get a little bit better. We're the cusp of a playoff team. I would hope that they would get at least to that. You're like on the cusp of being a playoff team. And then I go to Paul George and say, hey, let's go. You can help put us over the top here. Paul George may feel like he'd be able to lure in another free agent. And now we're ready to go. But I'm not going to give up any assets to get Paul George. All right, my next question comes from Simon Torvey Sunland. He says, do you have any good tips for writing articles? Also, what kind of articles do you enjoy the most? That is a good question. So, good tips for writing articles. And some of these tips I'm going to give you, I'm going to let you know right now. I don't always use them myself. I should, but I don't always, because sometimes I'm rushing and sometimes I should be rushing. Sometimes I shouldn't, but it happens. But I would say always start with an outline. And it doesn't have to be totally school level outline where you're like 1X, 1A, and A, you get the 1, 2s and the 3s under the letters. You don't have to go that far with it, but you should write, like, if you're writing an article, you should say to yourself, what are the 4 things or 5 things or 3 things that I want to tell my reader in this article? What do I want to make sure that they know? And then you write that a sub headline in your text, whatever if you're using a word processor of some sort, Microsoft Word or whatever, Google Docs, or if you're actually in the CMS, content management system on a website, literally write down the concepts, right? And every time so essentially you're filling in the blanks. So when you go to start writing, so I'll give you an example. Say if I want to talk about the NBA Live trailer, like I just wrote that article. Well, the things that I wanted you to know from that article or in that article is that I felt that they lost some momentum. I felt that the screenshots were great and the video wasn't quite as great. So the first thing is you lost momentum. Secondly, I want to start telling you how they lost momentum, in my opinion. So, all right, what's the first aspect? What's the first negative thing? What's the second negative thing? What's the third negative thing? Okay, so then the last thing I want to tell you is, while this doesn't look great at this point right now, it's still early, so let's not pass a complete judgment. So I've written those things out, and then essentially I'm just fleshing out each section. Now, I don't leave them there necessarily for you to read, but that's how I built the article. So it's really good habit to build it with an outline. Another thing is, don't force yourself to write a headline at the beginning or before you start writing. Sometimes your article is going to write the headline for you. So if you don't get something that just pops to you like, bam, this is a great headline, Just start writing, just start doing your outline, and then read your piece over after you've written it, and then give it a headline based off of whatever feeling you get after you read. Now, if you're writing online, then you always have to be SEO conscious, which is search engine optimization. You want to make sure that you are getting keywords at the beginning of your headline, because the more searchable keywords you get at the beginning of your headline, the more apt it is to be found in a search engine. So if everybody's searching NBA Live 18, you want to make sure that that's at the beginning of the headline, and you go from there. So if you look at some of the most successful articles, you'll see that they're written in that format. See if I got one more. I don't think that the more you write, the better, because that's not always the case. Just finish your thought. So if you have a thought or a collection of thoughts, start them off, flesh them out, and finish them. Don't feel like you got to write 1,500 word pieces all the time, because everything that you write doesn't call for 1,500 words. You only need to say whatever it is that you need to say, and then you move on from there. All right, and you also said, what kind of articles do I enjoy the most? The ones I enjoy the most are articles that are somewhat original in concept, and they require research to complete. So I'll give you an example. When I write my article about the FPVR, the franchise player value rating, it's gonna be a long process, but I'm gonna enjoy it because I've done all of this research, and I've done all of this, all of these different calculations, and I've ranked these guys, and it's obviously about something that I'm very interested in. So putting that article together is going to be fun, because I'm going to love watching how it just is constructed with images and charts and so on and so forth. So those kinds of articles are the ones that I enjoy the most. All right, my next question comes from Maurice Dixon. He says, from one journalist to another, he's interested in hearing how I got into the business and to my current level of success. Well, I appreciate that, Maurice. Absolutely. I got into the business. It was absolutely just a total blessing. It was all God, to be honest with you, man. I had lost my job. I was working for a telecommunications company, and I've always loved sports, loved it ever since I was a kid, a baby, really. And I had been trying to do my own websites and stuff with video games previously, but I hadn't really I really didn't know what I was doing, basically. But I was trying, and I was doing that little stuff, but I was kind of doing it on the side. I mean, I'd be at work using the work computer, basically messing around with my website, and really wasn't going anywhere, right? But when I lost my job, I came home, and I was kind of bummed out a little bit, and I was online, I was looking around, and I saw Bleacher Report come up, and they had a little sign, do you want to be a writer? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna see what that's about. And it was so funny because I had just applied and just decided I was gonna go to school, because I hadn't gone to school yet, right? And it's crazy thing of what I think I was 36 at the time, and I was like, okay, now I'm gonna, I said, yeah, it's way late in life, and yeah, life happens, kids and marriage and all that. So I went to school when I first came out of high school, but I didn't finish at that time because I wasn't really mature enough to handle college. So I had applied and started school, and I was going online, and I saw this thing for Bleacher Report, and I applied, and they accepted my writing sample, and they first had me in. I think I wrote 1 or 2 articles for free, just to get myself out there. But it took like 2, no more than 3 articles, and an editor from his name, I never forget him. His name was Alan Kim, an editor from the NBA side, Bleacher Report, contacted me and said, hey man, I really like your articles that you wrote, and I was wondering if you would want to write on the NBA team. So he brought me in, and I was writing on the NBA team for the strictly Chicago Bulls stuff. And it was cool. And I felt like, okay, this is moving kind of quick, because I'm talking about this was like a month or so. And so then I asked him about being able to write, you know, if they had any paid positions. And he told me I'd have to do a writer trial with this team called the Breaking News team. So I did a writing trial with them for a week, and I got hired to write like part-time. I think it was just on the weekends or something. So that was cool, because it was the first time I'd ever been paid to write at all. But it only lasted like a month, and they pulled me in to write full-time, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And that became my job, you know, and it was just a blessing how quickly all that happened and came together. And I did that for a while. But to be honest, Bleacher Report at that time was absolutely only something that you do just to start your career, because you were never going to make enough money to really truly be able to support a family or really make anything happen. So a former editor from Bleacher Report contacted me about Forbes, and all this time I was still doing YouTube, contacted me about Forbes and gave me the opportunity, man. And it's outside of my kids and my wife, has been the biggest blessing I've ever had. So I am just so grateful, and all glory go to God, because it was amazing. It's been amazing. I've been extraordinarily blessed. So, but that's how it happened, man. So you know, as far as tips, you gotta put yourself on in this day and age, because early on, you know, you can try to establish some sort of relationship with someone who has some level of influence, but I would advise begin writing, begin making your Darren Rovell tweeted something not long ago, and I passed it on to someone. He said, when you're a journalist, a sports journalist, it is very important to make yourself useful. And I was like, what do you mean by that? What does that mean? But what he meant was offer something that the people you're writing to will find useful. So you got your Mel Kiper Jr.'s and your Andy Katz and people like that who have made themselves draft experts. So every year or throughout the year, when we're looking for information on the draft, whether or not we agree with those guys or not, we're listening to what they say to a degree. And we're like, man, this is good, useful information. We're taking this. You got people like Larry Kuhn and Mark Demps who have made themselves experts on the salary cap. There's another guy, Cole Zwicker, who is a genius when it comes to player evaluation and that sort of thing. He's one of the best follows I had on Twitter. If you're not following Cole Zwicker, you should be, if you like the NBA. He's got some good stuff. So those guys literally have made themselves useful by the type of information that they give out on a regular basis. So that would be my biggest tip for anybody that is trying to either be a writer or move up in the current, you know, in the industry. All right, the next question comes from Matt Price, and he says, is the 1984 draft the best ever in the NBA? It's obviously awesome. Hakeem Olajuwon, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Johns. I mean, it's just packed, right? But there's a lot of in there too, right? But the thing of it is you got like the greatest player to ever play the game in the draft. You got one of the greatest centers. You got one of the greatest point guards. You got one of the greatest forwards. So it's easy to say that. But then you look at like the 03 draft, which was solid. But I do still have to say, with the amount of Hall of Famers that come out of the 84 draft, I would still have to say, yeah, you do have to call it the best draft ever. Next question comes from Matt Price. He says, why do you think the commentary in WWE 2K is still bad while NBA 2K is great? I'm going to tell you, I think it comes down to something very simple: access. WWE 2K wants to use Michael Cole. They want to use Jim Ross sometimes. They want to use JBL. And with the schedule that the WWE announces, that all the WWE employees, with the schedule that they're on, because they have no off season, it's impossible for them to dedicate the time that they need to come into the booth together and to sit there and to record this commentary in an organic way where you get real life conversational style commentary. And because many gaming fans are not necessarily sophisticated enough to even expect good commentary in video games, the demand for it, I don't think, is strong enough. It's not hurting the sales of the game enough yet for them to do anything different. So they're just like, okay, well, we're going to say we got the real announcers because we do. It doesn't matter that it sucks because it's just bad and it's repetitive and it's all that. Honestly, man, I don't, and I really don't know what else they could do. I mean, the only thing I think that they could do is they could try to get somebody who is on a part-time schedule, you know, or not on a full schedule at all, like Jim Ross, like maybe Booker T, and get a different commentary team. So they WWE related, of course, but not anybody who's on the road 24/7, like Michael Cole, like JBL, like Byron Saxton, like Corey Graves, getting them to, you know, the time's just not there. Next question comes from Matt Price, and he says, Kevin Harlan, Mike Fratello, Hubie Brown, Marv Albert, one gotta go. This is probably going to shock some people, but I would probably say Marv Albert. Now, I know I grew up watching Marv Albert, and he has some amazing calls on some of the most memorable stuff that I watched, you know, coming up. But Marv Albert is not. Well, first, here's the one thing. You kind of mixing things here, though, because Kevin Harlan and Marv Albert are play-by-play guys. Mike Fratello and Hubie Brown are color analysts. So that's, again, not an apples to apples comparison. But if we're just talking about just their overall presence, Marv Albert is the one I could probably do without the most, because Hubie's absolutely not going anywhere because he's the man. He's the best. I love Kevin Harlan's voice. And Mike Fratello, I think, is pretty solid when it comes to analysis. Marv Albert, I don't hate Marv, but out of all of those guys, he's the one I could probably do without. All right, next question is also from Matt Price. He says, thoughts on the WWE changing their July pay-per-view to the Great Balls of Fire? That is the dumbest pay-per-view name I ever heard in my life. I wouldn't even come tell nobody, hey, y'all, I'm going to Great Balls of Fire tonight. What? That sound like a comedy about a STD. Great Ball of Fire. What in the world? That ain't. I don't like it. I don't like it. No, I don't like it. I don't like it. It's not good. I have no idea. I don't know if Vince McMahon lost a bet or something, and they said, I bet you won't name that pay-per-view Great Ball of Fire. And I don't know. It's bad. It ain't good at all. Terrible. Worst pay-per-view name in history, I think. Next question is also from Matt Price. He says, why do some of the NBA coaches walk almost to the free throw line after they call a timeout? Yeah, okay. I know what when I first read this, I didn't really know what you're talking about. But now I know exactly what you mean. I think that some of the coaching staffs have a plan where on some timeouts, they're going to come out as a coaching staff and they're going to discuss what the game plan is. And obviously they only do this on full timeouts and not 20-second timeouts. So they're going to discuss how they're going to address the team before they come to the team. So they come out, because when you notice that, it's always almost the whole coaching staff out having a quick huddle, and then they go in and they talk to the players. I don't necessarily like that. But it really depends on who you have on your team, right? If you have really strong leadership, I think you might be able to get away with that, because now during those, the players are not just sitting there silent for this 45, 60 seconds in which you guys are standing out there. They're talking. So I want to trust that I got leaders who are going to keep my team together, have them on the same page. So when we come over there as a coaching staff to talk to the players, we're pretty much just adding on to what that leader just said, that, the member of that's actually on my team, the player who is, we want to pretty much just be on one accord. So, but if I see the Bulls do that. Fred Hoiberg comes all the way out to the free throw line with the coaching staff all the time. it ain't no telling what in the world Rondo was over there saying at the beginning of the season last year. Not at the end, but at the beginning, he probably was over there like, look, when Fred come over here, don't do nothing he said, because y'all, everybody over here know Fred's stupid. I wouldn't be shocked if he was over there saying that. So for some people, I think it's good. For other teams, I don't know. Next question is from Michael Rigsby Jr. He says, who should be on the cover of WWE 2K18? I believe it should be Undertaker, but I see it being Reigns. I see it being Reigns too, and that's who should be on the cover. Roman. I know y'all hate him, but he's the beast. He's a beast. He's a beast. Not great on the mic, but neither is Undertaker. But some of y'all just choose to totally overlook the fact that Undertaker's promos was terrible. Even from the beginning to the end, he has great presence. He had a great look, a great gimmick, but he was never good on the mic. He was awesome in the ring, probably the best big man in the ring in history. But his promos and his mic skills was bad, and people act like they did not hear and see that, and that blows my mind. But yet, Roman Reigns does a bad promo, and people ready to punch him in the mouth. Why is that? Sasha Banks couldn't cut a promo with a pair of scissors. But y'all act like it's okay because I'm not trying to talk about her or nothing like that, but she has like a speech impediment or something. And when she does her promos, y'all be like, yes, girl. Oh, yes, this is such a good job. No, it's not. It's bad. Becky Lynch is bad but the crowd is still cheering. Yay! Cesaro's my boy. His promos ain't good. Daniel Bryan is a beast in the ring, and everybody loves him, but his promos are just They were always now. I understand back in the day when he was being allowed to be a heel, when Ring of Honor and some of the other independent segments, circuits, he was better. But his stuff was just okay. People pick and choose who they're gonna give a pass to. I'm trying to tell you. Reigns on the cover. Let's do it. Next question comes from Michael Risby Jr. He says, Derrick Rose is rumored to go to the Timberwolves. Do you see him fitting in and mentoring Chris Dunn? I don't know if he's rumored to go to the Timberwolves. I saw something that says that the Timberwolves would probably be interested. That doesn't mean that he's going to want to go there. And I do think that Derrick Rose is going to have suitors. So we'll see how that works. But I mean, I can see him in Minnesota for sure, obviously with the Tibbs connection. Mentoring somebody, I don't know if Derrick's in the mindset to mentor somebody. I really don't know about that. I don't know, but we don't know what this latest injury has done to him, or where he feels like where he is, or this past season, which was quite tumultuous. I don't know, but I don't know, man. I honestly think Derrick Rose's best role right now is as a 6-man on a championship caliber team. That's what I think. I think if he's a 6-man, he's coming off the bench just to get buckets, just to put pressure on the defense, go to the basket. I think he could win the 6-man of the year award if he stays healthy, of course. And I think that's his best role. I don't think that's available for the Timberwolves. They're different. They're at a different place in their evolution. But that's what I think is the best fit for him. See, Michael Rigsby Jr. says, with Bosh now parting ways with the Heat, will we ever see him in the NBA again? If not, is he a lock for the Hall of Fame? He is not a lock. I could see him getting in, but he is not a lock. I think he has every intention to play again. I don't think he wants to end his career this way, but I do believe there may be some sort of medical issue, and he'll have to be able to prove to teams that he's healthy enough for them to play him, essentially. So I don't know. I hope he's okay, and I hope he's able to play if he's healthy enough. But if he isn't healthy enough, I pray that he is content with reality and doesn't feel that he has to try to press it and to put himself in danger. So, but I don't know about him being a lock for the Hall of Fame. He obviously has a solid resume, but it's not necessarily one of those resumes that make you say, "Oh yeah, without a doubt, he's in." But it's pretty close. 2 NBA championship rings, 4 consecutive finals appearances. His numbers with Toronto were outstanding. They weren't bad with Miami either. So you know, it's not preposterous that he's a Hall of Famer, but I do not think he's a lock. The last question of the day comes from Spac Jones, FBH, and he says, do the NBA Live 18 screenshots make you feel hopeful about the release? Well, I kind of touched on this at the beginning of the show, Spac. They did before I saw that video, and now the video has me straight up worried on the real. So that is all I got for you today, man. I do appreciate y'all coming through, hollering at your boy. You feel me? I do. I will be back with another episode of whatever you just watched here. Ask FP. But until next time, God bless, and thanks for watching. Peace.